getting that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Extra Shifts Draft Spectacular. I am Chris, and I will be here for the next 5 hours. Yes, 5 hours solid. Hopefully not as long as last year. Last year, if you remember, we got to pick 12 by it. I think from memory, it took about 2.5 hours to get to pick 12. Hopefully it's not that long today. If it is that long today, hopefully it's a bunch of trades, because as we've talked about in the lead up to this draft, this is a draft where we're probably going to see the top 10 picks are going to be very hotly contested. And after the top 10 picks, I think there'll be a lot of teams that are like, yeah, okay, cool. So looking forward to seeing how this goes. Obviously, this is, a companion piece to sit alongside the NHL draft, which for those of us in Australia, ESPN Disney Plus is the way to go for that. That is the easiest way to make sure you watch it. But we will be here for probably a solid 5 hours, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm hopeful there's a couple of people who may pop in, so you don't just get me for 5 hours. But it's going to be an interesting night for the NHL. It's going to be a really interesting night. There's a lot of conversations going on around the league that teams are definitely not done moving yet, and I've got all of the alerts on for all the insiders to make sure that we have all of those angles covered. I'll start off with the basic sort of round the grounds where we sit, the state of play at the moment. As you can see on the top scroll, we have the picks as they currently stand. Toronto, of course, picking first, the Sharks picking second, Vancouver picking third, Buffalo at the moment picking fourth. Whether Buffalo pick fourth is, I think, completely open to question at this point in time. So let's just start with a few little bits and pieces. Currently at the moment, JJ Peterka is in the process of being traded to Boston from Utah. So that's a deal that is currently taking place. We haven't got the details through for that just yet. There's been a few other moves though this morning. Probably the bigger one, Zellweger moving to Buffalo from the Ducks. It's really interesting. That gives more defensive depth in Buffalo. Obviously, after making their big move out this week to get into 4, they then have now added Zellweger, which will give them a lot of good depth on the D-core. That's also possibly, as Elliot Friedman reported this morning, the reason why the Mason McTavish move hasn't happened yet. So if you remember, yesterday there was a lot of talk that McTavish was going to St. Louis or New York, and they were both very heavily rumored. Part of the reason apparently that hasn't happened yet was that the Rangers were believed to also be trying to make a move happen for Zellweger at the same time. Obviously, that didn't take place. So the McTavish talks are sort of sitting there at the moment. Friedman's reporting was that if he doesn't go for a first-round pick, they're wondering if maybe the Ducks go, we're not going to move him. I think they want a first to get back into the first. We'll see what happens there. I'm interested to see if a team is prepared to stump up a first for McTavish. Definitely not one inside the top 10. And as we've talked about, the top 10 is really where you want to be in this draft. Once you're getting a bit deeper in the draft, all of the analysts will tell you that a bit deeper in the draft, there's a bit of value there, but there's not as much. You're going to be waiting a bit longer for the talents that are coming a bit later on down the line. The other interesting one that we heard this morning from Friedman was apparently Buffalo had talks with Winnipeg over Hellebuck. And apparently Connor Hellebuck would be prepared to waive to go to Buffalo. Those talks have now stalled apparently a little bit. They're interested to see if they can be resurrected. But I think it's fascinating that Connor Hellebuck is very open to the idea of Buffalo. Buffalo do, of course, have the picks to make some moves here. So I think it will be interesting to see if Buffalo decide that they're going to jump up and use those picks to give to Winnipeg in order to get Hellebuck. I'm really interested. Obviously, Buffalo have 4 available to them. I think that's a a big price. I mean, it is a very big price. Hellebuck is kind of, if he's on, he's worth it, but we'll see what happens with that. But Buffalo also has pick 20, so there's moves to be happening there as well. I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk around with regards to St. Louis, for example. St. Louis have the most picks in first round picks in this draft. They've got 4, but only one of those is at the pointy end where you want it to be. So I think that they might try to package a couple of those picks and jump up into the top 10. In terms of who's going to go where, I think it would be an absolute shock if McKenna's not first. I think Gavin McKenna is first overall. And likewise, from a Sharks perspective, I suspect that it would be an absolute shock if we don't pick Stenberg second. That is largely off the back of the fact that we moved William Eklund. And moving William Eklund, I think, gives the Sharks the ability to add Stenberg into the lineup and then do whatever they want with 9. If they want to pick with 9, they pick with 9. If they move 9, they move 9. So I think we'll see a bit of conversation around what happens with pick 9 as well. And I think if a team's looking to jump up, that'll be it. There will be, in all likelihood, a good defenseman available at 9 because Viggo Bjork has jumped up in the last couple of days in the rankings, and he is now likely to be probably picked inside. I think I had in my mock, I had him going 6th to Calgary, and I think that Bjork will go to Calgary, and if Bjork goes to Calgary, that opens up an extra defensive spot. One of the defensemen will drop to 9. And then either the Sharks will pick that, or if a team wants to get up into that top 10 to get access to a defenseman, I think you jump up and pick 9's probably the one to get. So I think there's a lot of moving pieces here. I don't know if I put out in my mock, because I want to make bold predictions. I put out in my mock that I thought that Nyes might go to Buffalo. I know they've had conversations. I don't think at this point that Buffalo's moving for Matthew Nyes. Again, if they're moving 4, I think it might be for Hellebuck, but we'll see what happens with all of those moves. As you come in during the day, feel free to leave us a note of who your team's picking. If your team is not picking, like, a certain person who I know is in this stream and whose team doesn't have any picks because they decided to trade for a defenseman who actually was negative on the rankings. Hi, Tim. How you going? Who do you reckon is going? Do you think there'll be any surprises? If you think there'll be any surprises, please let us know in the chat. If you think there'll be anything that's going to be out of the ordinary, unusual in this draft, if you've got a wild and crazy trade that you think is going to happen in this draft, please drop it in the chat. Really interested to see what you think is going to take place at this draft, because I don't think we're going to see. Traditionally, we've seen a very straight through. Teams don't tend to want to make moves at the draft. I think this year's a bit different. I think the cap space, teams have gone, as we've seen, teams have gone a bit wild with cap space. So I think we're going to see, with the cap space being available, and let's face it, the free agency class is not great. I think we're going to see teams try to weaponize their cap space and go out and either get themselves more picks or go out of their way to make sure that they get themselves a better player. And again, I will use the example of the Sharks. I think the Sharks might go out of their way to get themselves a better player because they've got the ability to make the moves using the extra prospects. So I'm just checking to see if there's any other moves at the moment before we get going. Oh, yes. The other conversation was that Zach Werenski, there are conversations that have been had around Zach Werenski today, apparently. I would want the Sharks to move 9 and 27 and a prospect and go and get Zach Werenski. But we will see what the Sharks decide to do. We will see what all of the teams decide to do. Do you think there's a surprise in the first 5? I think once we see picks 1 and 2, I think we will see teams suddenly jump. I don't expect that teams will sit pat. I think everyone's waiting to see what happens with 1 and 2. And I don't think teams are sure. I think that I think it will depend on if we see, for example, I think it depends on if the Leafs do something weird at 1 and don't take McKenna, I think the draft opens up. If the Sharks take a defenseman and don't take Stenberg, I think it opens up. Once we get there, I've personally, in my one, for example, I know that all the way through, Caleb Maholtra has been mocked to Vancouver. I've had Chase Reed ending up in Vancouver. I think that the Vancouver Canucks, as much as, Manny's the coach, Caleb's his son, I've got the mock that I did has Chase Reed ending up in Vancouver. I just think that there's no way that they can't. Do it. Like if you've got, I think the other interesting part there is that Caleb Maholtra is had a really good burst, but he's not had a sustained amount of production. Like, for example, if you go through like his last season at Brentford, he ended up with 84 points in 67 games, but there was a very big burst there where he was good. And outside of that, it was a bit middling. He doesn't really have the offensive stats. He doesn't really have the scoring. He's not explosive. He's more of a two-way center. I think that Vancouver at 3 will want something a bit bigger. I think Chase Reed is going to be at the top end of these defensemen. My favorite defenseman in this class, by the way, I like Chase Reed, and I'd be quite happy, for example, if the Sharks took Chase Reed. I like Keaton Verhoff. He's big. Defensively, he's very good. He skates really well. I think that the one that I have written down for the longest amount of time is I've got Keaton Verhoff going 5 to the Rangers because he feels like the most Rangers Ranger to ever have Rangered, especially under this ownership. But we will see. Now, coverage has started. We have on the panel today, we have the brains behind the brains in Toronto, Megan Shaker. Sorry, that's kind of cruel, but it's not, because if you read all the reports, everyone's like, John Shaker may have cashed in on all of Megan's work, and Megan is the brains. But I'm interested to see what the panel thinks. We're going to see a lot of stalling. Look, I'm obviously here for the picks. I'm obviously here for the fun. I'm obviously here for the chats. I'm obviously here for the banter. I have worn. This is in honor of trying to remain neutral, even though very clearly behind me I'm not neutral. But in order to remain neutral, I have on the Kachek jersey, and it's an ode and a tip of the cap to Leah Merrill et al., who did so much of a good job covering the Coyotes. So repping the Coyotes jersey because I'm trying to be neutral for a draft, even though and I have, for luck, the signed Patrick Marleau is right next to me for luck. So the EK65 is there to keep me humble. But we will see what happens here. I'm also here for Gary Bettman to come out and go, we have a trade to announce. And I think we're going to get it tonight. I do think we're going to get that tonight. So I'm just keeping an eye as well as we're going. I've got 15 million different streams opened up in terms of media. So we will see what happens. I feel sorry for Gavin McKenna. He's going to have a lot of people just like cameras zooming in on him for the first 15 minutes of this coverage is just going to be everyone taking video of Gavin McKenna, like sitting there scratching. And, is McKenna nervous? What are we reading from him? What are we reading from his face? He's a kid sitting there scratching because he's waiting. Like, what would you be doing in a waiting room? You'd be doing the same thing as Gavin McKenna. So I don't think the Leafs are going to lose their mind. I think the Leafs will go Gavin McKenna. I think the Sharks will go Stenberg, and then I think the fun begins, because I don't think Vancouver will go where everyone has said they're going to go, and then I think it's a scramble, because I know for a fact, because we've heard them talk about it, Buffalo's open for business at 4. they will move. So Buffalo will move out of 4. We know that they will move out of 4. I don't think the Rangers are prepared to move out of 5. So I think that if you were looking at where you're going to see people move, I think Buffalo is open for business at 4. I think Seattle's probably open at 7. I think the Sharks are open at 9. Wouldn't shock me if Nashville's open at 10. I had in my mock draft, I think I had Pittsburgh jumping up to 10 to go and get Lynn, because we know they like him, and I think he'll probably go between 10 and 15. Chris Johnson reporting that there's a 5-year extension for Brant Clark in place in LA, 7.4 AAV. Brant Clark, probably the happiest man in LA to know that Jim Hiller is in Toronto. I think Brant Clark is very happy to know that Jim Hiller is in Toronto, because he could not get a game. Yeah, as Tim points out in the chat, if ever there was a draft class where an outside of the 4th round, for example, can become the next big thing. Yeah, look, there's no real outside of the top 10. Everybody's kind of like, oh, and the rest of them are sort of there. I think it's genuine. I think that there's genuinely a chance that someone's going to get an absolute, not a chance. I think someone's going to find an absolute bargain. Statistically, they're going to find a bargain. I think in comparison to what is expected, more so, because I think you're looking at a situation where everyone's talking about the fact, for example, that St. Louis have those 4 picks, but everyone's like, they've got 4 picks, but only one of them's decent. And they've got 2 back-to-back. Don't forget about that. St. Louis have a rarity in this draft where St. Louis are able to basically pick 2 players back-to-back at one point. St. Louis are at 11, which is probably their best of their picks. They'd like to get inside the 10. But then they've got 15 and 16. That's a really good sort of run of picks there. And then they've obviously got 29. So I think that St. Louis are a sneaky candidate to try to move themselves into the 10. That might even be a situation where you get, if the Sharks haven't traded out of 9, for example, they might take an 11 plus either one of those mid picks of 15 and 16 to slide back a couple of picks, 2 picks, probably still land maybe Lynn as the extra defenseman, and then move that extra draft capital with 27 to try to get something else. They may do something like that. So it wouldn't shock me, for example, if St. Louis jumped and got themselves up into the top 10. They're still waiting on confirmation of what the JJ Peterka deal is between Boston and Utah. Still has not come through yet, but it is apparently happening. So that is confirmed that it is happening. It just has not happened yet. Okay, here we go. There's Gary. Boo him. Boo this man. What the hell is this? So they've been talking about the fact they're going to have a major superstar announce the first overall pick. Oh, here we go. Gary Bettman, ladies and gentlemen. Dion Dawkins from the Bills and Josh Doan, which look cool, but notice that Josh Allen was nowhere near this for Buffalo. And a reminder, the same family owns all of this, so they could quite easily have got, Josh Allen would have been a big get if you're going to try to do this. I do love when you get the traditional now where the Bettman comes out flanked by Roger Goodell does the same thing for the NFL, comes out flanked by local celebrities to go, hey, cheer at the start of this draft rather than just booing me. So yeah, I'm getting messages about people who have just seen the Werenski news. I'm getting bunches of messages coming going, oh, Werenski. My Sharks friends have just woken up and have just spotted it. So good work, Jojo. Poor Jojo has been trying all morning to make the draft work. So congratulations, Jojo. You're here right now, and it's the best place to be, so you can sit here and watch your beloved Blackhawks draft. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Jojo. I don't know if you caught the bit that I said before there, Jojo, where that pick 4 may now find its way possibly to Winnipeg, because there were some conversations between Buffalo and Winnipeg for Hellebuck. So, Gary, we don't care. Gary, we just don't care. Please, Gary, can we say the phrase, the Toronto Maple Leafs are now on the clock, please? All right, so we're going to start the timer. From the moment he says, let's go, we're going to start the timer. Remember, last year, by the time we got to pick 12, it was about 2.5 hours in. So we need to make sure we're faster than that. All right, here we go. Oh, God, they're still talking. Just start. We can just start. We don't need to do this hype. Oh, God. Dion Dawkins is now hugging Gary Bettman. They're doing the Let's Go Buffalo chant. Okay. Gary Bettman looks like the most uncomfortable uncle at a family gathering. Yeah, Gary Bettman looks like the most uncomfortable uncle. Oh my God, the way he put his hand out there for Dawkins was like, am I going to high five? Am I going to shake it? It was just weird. That was weird. Gary, say it. Nope. Okay, I was working out which tragedy group we were going to have. Okay, so it's the local team that had a major tragedy and emerged triumphant. The downside is they do look like the Golden Knights, but they're not the Golden Knights, because the Golden Knights are nowhere near this round because they don't care about draft picks, folks. So we do not care about the Golden Knights. We don't have to mention them. This is probably the only time in this stream we're going to mention the Golden Knights. So, and it's not even about them, because they are nowhere near this stream because they don't care about prospects. They're too busy, we were all told at the press conference, they're too busy winning. With all of those cups they've won in the last, since they've won one, and good for them. They've won more than the Sharks. I'm waiting for that. But, all that winning they do. Here we go. Gary Bettman forgot his own branding. And Toronto is on the clock. Let's get going. I hate the fact they take forever on this pick because they want to stretch it out and give them some media time. Just make the pick. You know the pick. Make the pick. I love the idea they go, and you're on the clock, and they sit back and go, so who are we picking? Okay. Wow. Okay, so interesting. First of all, apparently the Maple Leafs are apparently bringing out Justin Bieber to announce the first overall pick. Secondly, multiple first rounders Paterka to Boston in exchange for a pair of first round picks. What the hell is that? So that reporting is from LeBrun. is that there will be a pair of first-round picks going back for JJ Peterka. Where are we? Somebody give me the answer, please. So apparently JJ Peterka is worth a couple of firsts. I love the idea that Boston might move the one they got from Toronto because it's now not worth as much because of this. Gavin McKenna now has to just sit there like he doesn't know that it's about to be him and just pretend that it's not him. Meanwhile, the Twitter feed just went off the deep end about all these people going, just show me Justin Bieber. Oh, it's going to be terrifying. Oh, dear. Okay, let's get this done. So everyone is now sitting in board silence, waiting for the Leafs to do what they're going to do, which we all know what they're going to do. Imagine they come up and say Chase Reed. That would be the funniest thing I think we've ever seen if they come up and went, Chase Reed. Because they've been told that they're taking this long to announce because they will have been told by the NHL, we need some media time to have these conversations and do all this stuff. That's what happened with the Sharks for Celebrini. Like the Sharks knew they were picking Celebrini, obviously. Everyone knew it. Pick is in. But they get told for the first overall pick, stretch it. Leafs pick is in. Here comes Gary. Okay. I wonder how much they've paid Justin Bieber to do this. Everyone is just standing. Gary Bettman. They did a close-up on Bettman's face when Bieber's music started playing. There he is. He's not even wearing like a Leafs jacket. He's wearing a Canada jacket. The child in him is ecstatic. Someone let that child out, please. He's trapped. Child is trapped inside Justin Bieber. He's being worked by a child. Come on. Bieber is stretching this. Greg Wyshynski just shared a photo of Bieber in a Winnipeg Jets jersey. Nobody told him what he was supposed to do. So he's learning his instructions. Am I supposed to come up here? Does he know what he's doing? Oh, Mr. McKenna, we would like to draft you to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, God, that was worth it. That was so worth it. There we go. In the biggest shock. I don't know what's the biggest shock. Is the biggest shock that McKenna went first, or is the biggest shock that Bieber didn't swear? All right. So, who is Mr. McKenna? It's his father. They've drafted his father. Okay. So Gavin McKenna, obviously, last season was a slightly down season from what everyone anticipated. In terms of last season, 35 games, 51 points. He's very creative. He's got great vision. His transitions are really good. Great on the power play, which the Leafs power play could always do with a bit more. They got Austin Matthews and William Nylander, but they could always do with more. Obviously, then you've got The only question they have is occasionally overhandling, but I think overhandling is something you see from a lot of those younger skill players before they come into the league anyway, because they're so used to just being so good that they just try to beat everybody. I think that'll come out of his game pretty fast. He's fairly consistent. He's fairly strong. I think the Leafs have landed a really good one. I think there's been a lot of rubbish conversations around McKenna. I think that's a lot of garbage. He's also the first, they just had on the stats there, the first Indigenous player represent the Yukon, apparently. So good for him. Different to Mana. I think he's different to Mana. I think he'll be able to level. I don't think there'll be that much between them necessarily. I don't really like when people do the overall comparisons that are that sort of heavily stacked, because I really think that a lot of and look, we've talked about this with Mana. Nobody in Toronto said that Mana was a bad player, right? Nobody said that he was a bad player. It was more just the mix was wrong. And it was the mix for that cap hit. If the cap hits were lower, and remember, a lot of that had to do with the cap not going up due to COVID. But if the hits were lower, I don't think the Mana problem would have been seen as being as bad. One of them needed to go. He was the one that was easiest to move because value. And I think that like Nylander actually gives them some depth value. So yeah, I think this will work out really well for Toronto. I think McKenna will be very good for Toronto. I think that Matthews will love having McKenna on a wing. Definitely. All right. JJ Peterka deal is the Boston first rounder tonight, and the Florida 2028, which is top 10 protected. So the Peterka deal is done. JJ Peterka is going to Boston for a first rounder. So the Boston first rounder this year, and Florida's 2028, which is top 10 protected. So we will make an adjustment to our banner on that one while we have this weird interview segment is happening. Meanwhile, the Sharks are on the clock, or they should be on the clock. The Sharks aren't on the clock right now because they're going to have this conversation first. So the Sharks have more time to take phone calls. If I'm a general manager, I am ringing the Sharks. So that will become Utah. So that is Utah now. From Boston. Okay. We'll put that back up. We have a trade. So there we go. We have our first one of the night. I don't care about this sit down and chat conversation bit. You know how we said we were going to go fast? We're not going to go fast. We are at minute 23 of the draft. We are going to be at minute 10 of this pick. This is going to take forever. This, by the way, is coffee. It should possibly be gin. We will see. So we're having a lovely chat with Gavin McKenna, and this is a fireside chat with Gavin McKenna and Justin Bieber now. Meanwhile, as a Sharks fan, I'm sitting here going, can we pick? Can we pick? Are we allowed to pick? Are we allowed to do this? If you're a general manager and you didn't use that time to make a phone call, I don't know what you're doing. Like, you should have been on the phone to the Sharks and tried to offer them something for two. I was trying to think if I would actually accept Werenski for two, because I like Zach Werenski, and obviously there's conversations now happening around Werenski. But obviously I would like to pick two, but we'll see. Matthew Schaefer is now interviewing Gavin McKenna. Oh, God. Matthew Schaefer is now interviewing. Oh, this is never going to end. Yeah, it needs to be Stenberg. I agree. Well, Stenberg's the pick at two. I'm saying that straight up. I've said that the whole way along. Stenberg's the pick. The question is, I think the Sharks will move 9. I think the Sharks will move 9, and I think they'll move 27, probably in a package. 9.27 and a prospect for a Werenski, I'd do. For the record, I would do that. But Stenberg is the obvious pick because the second they moved Eklund, and we talked about that at the very start. I said that I thought they'd move Eklund out for a defenseman, and then they would definitely take Stenberg. And I love Verhoff. I've had Verhoff at the Rangers for forever because I think that Verhoff is the most Rangers defenseman to ever Ranger. I love Keaton Verhoff. I probably prefer Verhoff to Reed as a defenseman in this draft. And I think that I'd take Keaton Verhoff in a heartbeat, but I don't think he's getting a 9 somehow. I think if a defenseman makes it all the way to 9, it's going to be Daxon Rudolph. Because I think we're going to see. I think what's going to end up happening, in my opinion, is that I said before, Bjork has flown up the board. I've got Bjork going at 6 to Calgary. So Bjork will come up into the top picks, which bumps the defenseman all down, which means there will be a defenseman there at 9. It's just which one. It'll either be Schmitz or Rudolph. And I don't mind either of those. I love Verhoff. And Verhoff would also give them a defensive prospect that can be really good on a power play. And is good on zone entries. He's big, he's strong, he's good on zone entry, he's good on power play. And a bit back to what the Sharks did really well when they were really good, which was, have a big defenseman on the power play who can just get that puck in at the net and have those guys in close just tipping. The good old Joe Pavelski tip. Something along those lines. Very, very De Boer hockey, that one. So as we move into the 19th hour of talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, good news. The Sharks are on the clock, folks. The Sharks are on the clock. The draft really begins after 2, unless the Sharks do, if the Sharks do something weird, it really kicks in. But I think if the Sharks do what they're expected to do, I think it's interesting too. As I said, I do not, and I'll put it on record again, I may be very wrong and I may look very stupid. I do not believe Caleb Malhotra is going 3rd. I think Chase Reed is going 3rd. And that's going to open it up because once the defensemen start, teams are going to panic that want a defenseman and are going to spend to jump to get them. So I think we're going to see teams jump to get a defenseman once the first one looks like they're coming off the board. So I think someone's coming up. I don't know who it is, but I think someone's coming up. Mike, don't overthink this. Don't overthink this, Mike. The correct answer is Ivar Stenberg. All right. Here we go. What are we going to do? What do we think? What do we think the Sharks are doing? Are they going defense? Are they going smart? The pick is in. Here we go. Thank you, Gary. Shut up. Yes, I'm happy with this. Layla Edwards making the pick. I love the fact they've got Layla Edwards making the pick. Edwards is amazing. I love Layla Edwards. You know how I said we weren't talking about the Golden Knights? Dorofeyev has just been traded to the Rangers. God damn it. They've done it again. They're going to get him picked. Don't ruin this. Yes, bring the gold medal. Anyway, we love you, Layla. Stenberg. Correct pick. Correct pick. Correct pick. Now, I love this. I'm thrilled with this. I'm so happy with this. I am in deep shock. Dorofeyev has been traded to the Rangers. Dorofeyev has been traded to the Rangers. I'm waiting for it. Anyway, Stenberg's going to light this up. Let's talk about Stenberg for now. We'll come back. Yeah, but that was why, Jojo, we talked about this. The reason why this deal was made was because it was quite clear that the Sharks were going to take Stenberg, and he wasn't going to be there. He's going to be so dynamic. Again, you've got a Stenberg playing off Macklin Celebrini or Will Smith. 43 games in front, but this is in Frölunda in the Swedish Hockey League, obviously. 43 games, 33 points. He's incredibly smart. His playmaking is really good. He's playing in a pro league rather than playing in a junior. He's bit of bulk needed, but beyond that, I think that the ceiling that he has is going to be incredible. Like the ceiling that he has is going to be unreal. I'm looking forward to it so much. I think he will probably also. There's a very strong chance that he comes out the chute a lot more productive than McKenna. I think McKenna will probably eventually be more productive. But there's every chance that Stenberg actually has a better first season than McKenna does. I'm just like waiting to see if I can get any more of this on the Dorofeyev stuff. Because that was Drager who put that out there. Moving Dorofeyev, by the way, they are now 100% taking Dylan. Dylan Larkin is 100% ending up in Vegas now. There's no way he's not. Oh yeah, no, I don't think anyone directly behind us believed that. Hang on. So what's the trade? Yep, there's no picks yet. There's no picks coming back yet. What do you mean? Maybe they have their eye on Dylan Larkin. They definitely have their eye on Dylan Larkin. Maybe they have their eye on Dylan Larkin. Why on earth would you move Dorofeyev out? I mean, 11 million, probably. But why would you move Dorofeyev out if you weren't going to go and get Dylan Larkin? They're 100% going to get Dylan Larkin. There was no way that the Sharks were going to take Reed at 2, as much as Reed will be good. They were always going to go best player. Stenberg is best player. Here is the moment where the draft wakes up, because now you've got a situation of Malhotra, or do we go the defenseman? I maintain they're going to go the defenseman, and I think Vancouver's going Chase Reed. I've said Chase Reed. If you look in my predictions, I predicted Chase Reed. If you look at my mock draft, I predicted that Chase Reed would be the pick here, and then I thought that Malhotra would drop down the board. So I don't think that, even though Manny Malhotra is the coach, I don't think they're going to go Caleb Malhotra. I think they'll go Chase Reed. Still waiting to see what the return is. You might black out. I don't remember very much. Very, 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 very happy with that decision. Just using everyone's favorite hashtag, the future I steal. I love, by the way, that the Sharks. I love that the Sharks did the future is teal as a hashtag and quite openly left it when everyone was like, the future race deal. My brother, who's a Rangers fan right now, is going, that's a really good pickup on Dorofeyev, just depending what they gave up. My thing is, I don't really think it matters what the Rangers gave up. The Rangers aren't working as a team. I think the Rangers need to, depends. If they gave up 5, that's interesting because it's pending free agent. Oh, and the pick is in for the Canucks. So we have lots of Canucks fans in the group. We have far too many Canucks fans in the group, if I'm honest. I think we need to get rid of some of them. Here we go. Oh, Colby Smulders. It was one of 2 people. It was either going to be Kobe Smulders coming out and announcing the deal, or it was going to be Buble. Oh, she's on her screen. It's Caleb Malhotra. They did go Caleb after all of that. So after all of that, they didn't go the defenseman. They went Caleb Malhotra. I'm suggesting the phone is ringing in Buffalo. Caleb Malhotra going 3rd. I think they've taken him way too high. Genuinely, I think he's gone way too high on that one. Chase Reed is sitting right there. I don't understand why you do that one. Again, I think there's too many good defensemen. I just think there's too many good players. So I don't quite get it. So Malhotra last year, as I said, he did have a lot of points, but he's not necessarily that player. As I think a lot of the pre-draft, a lot of the pre-draft scouting on him was that he probably was about the 5th best player on his own team. And that there was a gap where a bunch of players were away. That's when he scored some points. And when everyone else came back, he sort of dropped back off the face of the earth again. But there was about a 3-month stretch where he scores most of his points. So I would have gone Reed or Verhoff or one of the defensemen for Vancouver. But obviously, Vancouver have decided that that's what they're going to do. So, and look, they've got assets they can probably move if they want to get a defenseman as well. Pedersen is there, although how much value he's got left, I don't quite know. I think if Caleb Malhotra's last name wasn't Malhotra, I think he's probably maybe a back end of the 10, possibly like up to 15. I think the numbers are a bit deceiving. I mean, he scores in the O. I think the issue is that, like in the OHL, he's not really up against the big heavy defense, and he's going to see big heavy defense in the NHL. And I don't know how he's going to convert that into NHL. But look, I don't think it'd be a bust. But if you've got Carroll's, Verhoff, Reed, even someone like a Smits who's played at the Olympics and played like with men's teams available, I think you have to take one of those. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't do it. Okay, so here's the trade. So, to the New York Rangers, Dorofeyev, to Las Vegas, top 10 protected first 2028, 2026 third, and a 2026 first, originally Dallas. That is what the deal is. So the deal is going to be for pick 26. So it is pick 26, the 2026 third, and a top 10 2028. So that is not too bad. And 2028 top 10. That's not a bad move. The Rangers go out and get their scoring. They've still kept pick 5, obviously. This is like now they're interviewing Manny and Joan Malhotra, Caleb's parents. Let's talk about. Aren't you surprised? Are you surprised to hear his name? No, his father was in the room. He knew all along. They knew. They absolutely knew. So I'm excited to see. Oh, he's with dad hat on, not coach hat on. No, you definitely have coach hat on. You're like, I got my son. All right. So let's see what happens now. Because I think we've got a really interesting. It's a lot to pay for rights, by the way. But I think it's a fair pay I think it's a lot to pay for rights, but it's a fair pay for the rights. Now, my question is, do Buffalo stick or do Buffalo move? I think the interesting thing for me with Buffalo is obviously Buffalo's now they've got a fairly stacked decor. Even making the move they made with Byram, they've got a pretty stacked decor and traded for defense again this morning. So I'm wondering if you're Buffalo, if you don't move, or if you stay. I wonder if this is where Bjork goes. Because like extra defense is always good, and then look, extra defense would be probably warranted and wanted. But they've got the flexibility if someone decides to jump and make an offer, where they can possibly get up in here. I think that Viggo Bjork might jump up. Klepov could also jump. All right, we're down into the 20 seconds to go. I suspect if they pick I think it's Reed. I don't think you can. We're getting right down to it. We've gotten right down to it. Pick is in. We got all the way down to 1. I think this will be Chase Reed. I'll be shocked if it's not. As I did say to you before, the only thing I can think of here is they've got a stacked decor. They might decide to jump up and grab a Bjork or a Klepev. I feel like they might be smart and just take Chase Reed. Don't overthink it. And look, Yamo's been very good at not overthinking things at the moment. Yamo's been very good at not overthinking things. So my thing the other day when the trade happened with Chicago, I'm like, why would you trade with Yamo for a defenseman? It always ends badly. Oh, and now we're bringing out Thurman Thomas. So we're bringing out more Buffalo legends. Thurman Thomas, of course, very well known for not winning Super Bowls. Daxon Rudolph. That's a jump. Chase Reed is available at 5 for the Rangers. That is fascinating. Wonder if the Sharks decide to send 9 and something up the board to the Rangers and go and get Chase Reed. So Daxon Rudolph comes off the board. It is Daxon Rudolph, the one I thought would probably slip to the back end of the 10. Rudolph jumps. Keaton Verhoff. He jumps. Smits. He jumps Carson Carrells. He jumps Chase Reed. That is a big jump, I think. So Daxon Rudolph last year, look, he's got a good shot as a defenseman. He's got a great shot. Like, 68 games, 78 points, 28 goals, and 50 assists. He's really good on the power play. He's got a lot of confidence. He moves forward really well. He's very good offensively. He does have an issue with regards to his reads are a bit questionable at times, and also things like turnovers. He's a bit of turnover issue, just a bit of consistency on the defensive end. But he's definitely someone who looks like someone who could power play, be a power play quarterback, be someone who gets the puck into the offensive zone really well. I'm interested by this one. I wonder if Rudolph makes the league next year or if Rudolph goes back to minor. But this now brings us to the Rangers, and the Rangers may have Chase Reed sitting right there. So again, I've had Verhoff going to the Rangers the entire time, but I don't think anyone expected that Chase Reed would be there. Let's find out what goes on here. So I'm amazed that Reed and Verhoff are both there at 5. I don't understand this one. I mean, I don't think he's bad. I think he's good, but I kind of feel like Reed and Verhoff are both absolute slam dunks. Probably, as you said, Jojo, it's a stylistic fit, and it probably is. I think the Rangers would be doing cartwheels right now. Like the New York Rangers are making it like absolute bandits. Right, the Rangers are going to win big time here. Like they're going to win big time here. So the Rangers are probably going to end up with, well, they're definitely going to end up with, it'll be a Reed or a Verhoff or maybe Carson Krells. I'm staggered that no one had a package that was big enough for pick 4. Also, we all expect that package that the Rangers have paid to Vegas, we all expect that package is basically finding its way to Detroit for Dylan Larkin, right? Everyone's agreed that package that they've traded is definitely going to Detroit because Vegas needed something to send back for Dylan Larkin. So I would suspect that you're going to get that first round pick that Vegas just got and the protected first round pick will both find their way to Detroit. Wonder if Detroit also asked for a player. I would. Okay, so the Rangers are on the board. 2 minutes to go with the Rangers. Where do we think they're going? If you have to make your pick, where do you think the New York Rangers are ending up? Are they taking Reed? Are they taking Verhoff? Are they doing something unusual and taking Viggo Bjork? Are they taking Klepov? What are they doing? Verhoff just feels too rangery to me. He just feels too rangery. We are just about to be an hour. We're just about to be 50 minutes in, and we're up to pick 5. Let's pick every 10 minutes. Oh dear. I hope we're prepared. This is going to be long. This is, yeah. I'm interested. It's got to be Reed. I'd be staggered if it's not Chase Reed. I like, as I said, I like Carson Burhoff. Carson Burhoff. I'm mixing up Carson Carells and Keaton Burhoff. Personally, I like Keaton Burhoff. I've liked Keaton Burhoff the whole time for the Rangers. I think that. Imagine Chase Reed slides all the way to 9 and the Sharks are just sitting there. That would be hilarious if that happens. Because I don't know if Calgary are going to take the defenseman. They don't need it. They need offense. So I think that defense will get past Calgary. The Rangers will take defense. But then I think we're getting... I don't think we're getting defense at 6. I think we're getting best available for Seattle at 7. Winnipeg, who knows? Here we go. The New York Rangers select. Schmitz. The Rangers go Schmitz. The Rangers go Schmitz. Which means if Calgary take offense, the Sharks are going to end up with either Verhoff, Reed, or Carells. If Mike Greer manages to get Reed, Verhoff, or Carells at 9, that'd be amazing. Trade. Oh, this will be the Verhoff trade announced. The Dorfeyev trade announced. Oh, it's the Paterka trade. So it's just that's just announcing these trades. It is, but it's also slow. But they're always slow. Last year's was very slow. I mean, to be fair, last year's was slow for me because we picked it number 1, and then I just sat there bored for the rest of the time because I was, we picked it 2 last year, sorry, and the year before was slow for me because I picked it 1 and I was done. So at least this time we've got more picks. Oh, we're still hitting trades. We're still hitting trades. Okay, Gary's just doing all the housekeeping now. So Gary's doing housekeeping. Look, Schmitz is not a bad pick for the Rangers, by the way, as much as I love Chase Reed or I love Keaton Verhoff. He's played Olympics. He's played men's hockey. He's big. He's he's a very solid. Playing for Ukraine's not a joke. He's got a lot of mobility. He's very good defensively with a stick. He's very much got good puck movement, although he doesn't really have the offense. His shot's not really there. So he's not an offensive defenseman. He's very much a defensive-minded defenseman. So I think the Rangers are going to get a second pairing defenseman there quite easily. So Klepov and Bjork, I think, are both sitting there as offensive prospects. I think defensively, I think you've still got the what I consider the big three going in. The big three defensemen that I consider to be the big three defensemen in this draft were Chase Reed, Keaton Verhoff, and Carson Carrells. And at the moment, if Calgary goes offense, the Sharks will have one of them. And that would be incredible. If one of them is sitting there for San Jose, that is ridiculous. So I feel like someone's going to jump. Like, those guys are still there. I feel like the positioning is right for somebody in the draft to try to jump up to get into this first round, into this top end of the first round. So, all right, Calgary, and the pick is in. I'll give Gary credit. He's now running to the podium, or in this case, running past the podium. Laney? Laney McDonald. That's fine. Look, we can slow the draft down to have Laney McDonald come out and make a pick. That moustache. Sorry, Laney McDonald and his moustache. Don't forget his moustache. This man got run out of town. This man got run out of town by a certain Leafs owner. It's ridiculous. The fact that you'd run Laney McDonald out of town, just, Here we go. Carrells. Carson Carrells goes to Calgary. That's a good pick. That's a very good pick. The Sharks are going to have a really interesting thing here. They may. I don't know if Calgary's pick comes up and the first in the coverage does is immediately cut to a shot of McKenna. Absolutely ridiculous. The Sharks, from a Sharks perspective, because I'm going to do a quick Sharks perspective here, we need Seattle and Winnipeg to not take the two defensemen. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. So this will be really interesting at the moment because the next defenseman is Ryan Lynn after this group. So the next defenseman is Ryan Lynn. The Sharks, I don't think the Sharks want more offense. I don't think the Sharks would take Bjork. They might, but I don't think they will. I suspect if it looks like the defense, are going to go off the board here, I think that you probably get a Sharks trade for 9. I would have done a Sharks trade for 9 anyway. And I suspect they might. Still, it wouldn't shock me if the Sharks, for example, do 9, 27 and a prospect that I'd really hate losing and try to go and get the defenseman. In terms of, so if we have a look what the Sharks could do, for example, and again, I know people are going, what are you doing about the Sharks? Of course not about the Sharks. Like, once we get past 9, I won't, because I don't think we'll do anything after 9. I think we'll move 27. I don't think we pick at 27. If the Sharks feel particularly bold and think that now is the time, the 2028 first and second are in play. I don't think that at 2027, I think they're prepared for one more, possibly. By 2028, they can't be bad. I'm interested where this goes. I'm really interested where this goes now, because I think we've got a situation on our hands that the Sharks won't want to do offense. The Sharks will not want to do offense. So if the Sharks don't want to do offense and to D come off the board, do you take Ryan Lynn or do you trade out? I just need one of these two teams to decide that they think Viggo Bjork's the man. One of the two. I don't care which one of them it is. One of the two of these teams need to decide that Viggo Bjork's what they really want. I think we're in a really tricky situation right now for the Sharks. This is going to be a really interesting part of this draft now, because we have said this is probably the tail end of the really good picks. Now we're in this last batch, right? After 10, it gets dicey. So I suspect we're looking at if the two defensemen go, we'll start seeing trades. Really, I don't know. Again, San Jose don't need offense. I think there'll be other teams that will want to go up and take Bjork. I think that Nashville's in a best player situation. I genuinely, I think we're in a really tricky spot for what the draft is going to be here. I don't know what Seattle's going to do. I got no idea what Seattle's going to do. Here we go. There goes Chase Reed. There goes Chase Reed. Okay, Sharks have got to get out of there now. It's got to be Verhoff or trade. This is going to be painful. Okay. I'm stunned that Chase Reed was sitting there at 7. He shouldn't have been. He should not have been there at 7. This will be really interesting now. We are in a very tricky part of this draft. Okay, where are we at? Dorofeyev trade. I'm seeing if there's any moves yet. My other thing is I'm expecting a trade coming from Vegas because I don't think there's any chance that Vegas are picking tonight. It's how much are they paying Detroit is the question. I think the only thing we're waiting on with that is not are they trading the picks to Detroit for Dylan Larkin. It's how much are they paying to Detroit for Dylan Larkin. Yeah, the Sharks can't. If Verhoff comes off the board, they've got to make a trade. Because they can't. If the Sharks get 9 and then take Bjork with it, like as much as I think Bjork will be a good player, if the Sharks get 9 and take Bjork again and have not addressed the defense, there will be riots. Like they have to address the defense, whether it be through the draft, whether it be the smart move, which is immediately send stuff and go and get your player, which I think at this point in time, you offer whatever you need to offer to get Zach Werenski. If you're San Jose, you go and get Zach Werenski. Just get him. Right? It's doable. Get him. Sharks, again, the Sharks fan base will absolutely riot if they. Yeah, they can't take that. They can't take the offense. The Jets have to take Vigo Bjork here. I think they might. Like the Jets might do Bjork. Okay. I'm more nervous about this pick, and it's not my team. Also, how do we feel? People out there, how do we feel so far about what we've seen coming off the board? Any big shocks apart from Chase Reed? Is anyone surprised by anything we've seen apart from the fact that Chase Reed took so long to go off the board? I think we'll have an idea of what's happening at this pick if you start hearing that the Sharks are looking at moving 9. The Sabres pick was interesting. But the Sabres going the way they went is, I think, an interesting one. I think Rudolph went way higher than I expected. Vigo Bjork. Okay. All right. Vigo Bjork in Winnipeg, which means that I think the Sharks will probably grab Keaton Verhoff, which I'm not upset with. As I've said all the way along, Keaton Verhoff was my preferred defenseman. Him or Chase Reed. I really like Verhoff, though. So okay. So it has to be. They have to. Like, they have to do this. Right. There's no way they're not. There's no way unless they are trading. unless they are trading. I think Vigo Bjork is great at 8, by the way. I do genuinely think he's great at 8. I just don't think he's what the Sharks needed. Like, my thing with Vigo Bjork is not that I don't like Vigo Bjork. I think he's really good. I'm surprised he didn't go a bit higher. I had him going to Calgary. Like, his shooting is good. He's pacey. He reads the puck really well. He's got the size and strength questions. Are kind of it with Vigo Bjork. But he's playing for Djurgårdens again, and that's no, slouch playing there. So I think you've got to, if you're the Sharks here. I don't think he knows where Winnipeg. Actually, to be fair, he's used to cold climates. Winnipeg's great for him. So Verhoff, if it's Verhoff, he's just going to make faster decisions. Probably is the big thing for him. He's got size. He's got the reach. He's really good at skating. If they get Verhoff, I think the Sharks look. I didn't want them to be picking at 9. I wanted them to move it for the defenseman. But if it's not likely that you're going to be able to do that, then you can do a lot worse than have Verhoff. So we're on the clock. It's 2:39 to go. So I'm interested to see. Of course, if Mike Reed does something really stupid, they might burn down SAP. Okay, so there's no whispers coming down of a trade, so I suspect the Sharks are going to make the pick. And again, we were very much on the record as saying that the Sharks probably shouldn't be drafting at 9 after the trade they made. They probably should be getting a player ready to go with those picks. But I would be more surprised if the Sharks draft 27. To be honest with you, I'd be more shocked if they draft 27. Sharks are still on the clock. 1 minute 25 to go. Oh God, Sharky is on stage, and I don't want to know what Sharky's doing. Sharky is dancing, and I don't know who's inside Sharky at the moment, but Sharky's hip should be lying. They should be lying. They're not lying. They should be lying. Sharky's hip should definitely be lying. Okay. It would be absolutely fascinating if, and they're talking about it now on the thing. It would be fascinating if the Sharks were able to get the player they wanted, plus have the defenseman fall to them at 9. Pick is in. The pick is in. If you have overthought this, Mike, so help me. If you have overthought this, Mike, so help me. Layla Edwards again. Woo! Here we go. By the way, if the Sharks don't take Verhoff, there'll be a brawl. If the Sharks don't take Verhoff, there'll be a brawl for 10. Keaton Verhoff. The draft has fallen perfectly for San Jose. The draft has fallen perfectly. That's incredible. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And as Greg Wyshynski puts it, and I'm sorry, Jojo, I'm about to have a dig again. But as Wyshynski put it, Chicago, you have to trade fourth overall at this stage of the rebuild. San Jose drafts Stenberg and Verhoff after trading for a second top 10 pick. I can't believe the draft actually fell the way the Sharks needed it to. I mean, they obviously made their own luck at 2 because, you know, they could have done a dumb thing, but they didn't do the dumb thing. They did the smart thing. And then I would have traded 9, but I love Keaton Verhoff as a defenseman. I'm really happy with this pick. Obviously, Zach Werenski would have been lovely, but if they're probably not going to move Zach Werenski and they're going to talk about that after, then you talk about that after. I think, you know, there's still ways to do all of these deals. I don't think. I mean, I don't know if you're going to see anyone. I don't think anyone's going to have picks in this draft now that Don Waddell is going to move Werenski for in this one. I think Werenski's moving. I just don't think it's necessarily going to be today. And that could be interesting because if the Sharks decide that they think the rebuild's done and the Sharks want to not be bad, the Sharks could gamble and could decide they want to give next year's first. Because that would also mean they'd have no picks because they've got no second and no third. They could gamble and decide to give up a first. I think we'll know a lot more. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks trade out of 27 and try to trade into next year's first. That wouldn't shock me if the Sharks decided to try to move into next year's first round and trade 27 to somebody else. That would make a lot of sense for me and gives them some collateral to go and try to chase Werenski if they think that's a deal. The other thing I'm terrified of is that we've all decided that we think that Vegas are clearing the boards to go and get Larkin out of Detroit. But what if Vegas are clearing the boards to go and get Zach Werenski? That would be terrifying. I'm so happy with that. As I said, I like Reed. I've said that Verhoff's been my guy. I've really been all over Verhoff. I didn't think he'd fall that far. I didn't think Chase Reed would fall to 7. Like when the draft opens up and Reed and Verhoff are suddenly there and you just need one team to take offense, the Sharks would have taken that every day of the week. Would have rather moved the pick and got a Werenski, for example. But if you're going to take a defenseman in this draft, it was Reed or Verhoff. And I really like Verhoff. I think he gives them a lot of what they've been lacking in that defensive core. So I'm really, really impressed with that. I'm really happy with it. So now Nashville are on the clock. Now we find out where we're going from here. So Nashville are now on the clock. There's a number of different areas they can take this. There's a number of different places they can go with this. Ryan Lynn's around. Obviously, that's a really good pickup if they decide they want to go, defense. Ryan Lynn's there. Klepov from Saginaw is really good. So I think Klepov would be a really good offensive pick for them. He's got good passing, good production. Novotny's available, obviously. You start getting into these players now who are sort of that next tier down. Wyatt Cullen, if you want someone from the US program. Tynan Lawrence from Boston U. I mean, if you get anyone out of Boston, that's a great program. So Boston's a really good program. Who's coming out? It's a country music superstar, ladies and gentlemen. It is, oh, God, it's Luke Bryan. Ooh, dear. I think that's bold of you, Jojo, but see you later. All right. Dorofeyev extension, by the way, is 7/11. Nashville. Yep. Wyatt Cullen. Yep. Wyatt Cullen. I did say if they were going to go, I thought they might go something like US development. So Wyatt Cullen probably projected around 10. So Cullen's projected around 10. It's fairly accurate. Like he's got a lot of good pace, a lot of good vision, good shooting threat. I like Wyatt Cullen as a player. I think he offers a lot. So Wyatt Cullen, to give you an idea of his stats last year, 40 games played, 45 points, 16 goals, 29 assists. He can play across. He's a forward who plays everywhere. And obviously Matt Cullen being his father, so you get the NHL links in there too. Look, I think that's really good. I think that's really good for them. He's a solid middle player. Exactly what they're gonna want. So yeah, I think overall that's a solid pick for them. I'm still convinced if a team jumps up, and again, I can't believe I'm saying I think a team would jump up. This team would jump up, but I think the Penguins jumping up for Lynn would make a lot of sense. Kyle Dubas has made it plain he really likes Ryan Lynn he really likes Lynn as the defenseman. I think Ryan Lynn will probably go in the next couple of picks, so it wouldn't shock me if Kyle Dubas decided to jump and go get him. Let's have a look. So, yeah, okay. So, yeah, just repeating for anybody who might have just heard it, the Dorofeyev trade is not only done, but the extension is in place. So the extension is in place is 7 years by 11. So the Rangers now have their top line winger. And I think that's a great contract, by the way. Unless they're trading. So I think there's only 3 players that Vegas could be looking at. I think they're looking at Connor Hellebuck. I think they're looking at Dylan Larkin. And I think they're looking at Werenski. There's no reason for Vegas to move Dorofeyev and use the pick. There's no reason for it. I can't imagine they do that. It wouldn't make any sense. Yeah. This is, yeah. It's one of them. Like it's got to be. It has to be. Like, does anyone actually believe that Vegas are going to make a pick? I don't believe that either. All right, see you later, Tim. All right, now we have the first of the St. Louis Blues picks. The first of the St. Louis picks. So this is where St. Louis has the first of four. Surely, again, I think we've got a Ryan Lynn going at some point soon. I think we've got all these things happening soon. So, all right. So, St. Louis are on the clock. This will be interesting. We're about to see a lot of St. Louis. A lot of St. Louis. Okay. Pick is in. The pick is in. Gary's running to the podium now, to be fair to Gary. Oh, now we're going to show the Blues fans. Please welcome Blues fans. And they cut to the Blues fans and the crowd just boos. St. Louis selects. All right, Tynan Lawrence goes. So Tynan Lawrence, center from Boston. So center from Boston goes. Tynan Lawrence, again, good passing, good energy, good two-way. Probably doesn't have the finishing that you would expect of somebody around that pick. Sort of, he's been a bit, 18 games played, 7 points. So his offensive production is not great, and his skating could probably do a little bit better. But, again, I think that's not a bad selection overall. All right. And with that, given that the first round is largely those first 10 picks, we're going to wrap it here. And we're going to come back and do a recap at the end of the draft. So we're going to leave that here for now. And go enjoy the rest of the draft on Disney, or go enjoy the rest of the draft on any of the other streaming platforms. I'll be back to do a recap a bit later on. See you later.